Okay. Yeah, that's about this sort of money. Yeah, but part of just wait to by Monday, half of us will be trying. Even though it's supposed to change very quickly. Hey, Mom. Oh, you're here? Can you please bring it for me upstairs? Yes, yes, upstairs. So what's it? Yes. So,
then if I send you, you'll post on social media as well. So, nakutumia link saa hizi.
Post Twitter.
Ni Julie, mi vitu zangu lazima ziwake. So, thanks to you. Now, let me go and start. You said there was 0H31.
Yes, 0H31.
You tell us. You tell us.
Okay.
Need desktop.
Let
Let me just whatever. Let me just renew. Okay. So ready now.
We can hear you guys, huh? Yo. Yo.
Hey, good morning, guys. We're running 44 minutes late. My apologies for that. Allow me another 2 minutes to catch my breath because I'm not as fit as I used to be. But in the meantime, I just want to say thank you to everybody who's come here today. It's Saturday, and it's a Saturday when, you could be resting at home, spending time with family. For some, you could be nursing hangovers and waiting for the rest of the weekend to continue where you picked up on Friday night. However, we're here, and the whole point of this is really to have an interactive session with media managers from clubs affiliated to KRU. It's great to see supporters of the game also here. And at this point, I'm realizing I've not introduced myself. I've spoken for about a minute in which I should be catching my breath. My name is Michael Kombo. I work for the Kenya Rugby Union. I work at the Media and Communications Department. It's a department that I have been in for 10 years now, including a break. It used to be a part-time job, it became full-time, it's grown. The game has also grown, and with that growth, we're seeing clubs embrace platforms to communicate. And this session really is just to impart the knowledge. So I'll be giving a presentation on the importance of media departments in sports organizations, as well as the do's and don'ts of social media. And then after that, the reason I started first is because the people who will be coming after me are illustrious people. So it's best you start and then leave in rugby, we say the Oteros to continue. So we'll have Wanjala Were, who's here with us, and then we'll have Sataz Nyende. I'll be doing the introductions later. I will try to go quickly through my presentation, but also hoping that share the knowledge with you. And just giving you a heads up right now, these presentations, in the event that you need them, can be shared via email and other platforms. So sports, media departments in sports organizations, we are looking to enhance visibility, engagement, and success. Living in a digital. Somebody else communicate with that.
Yeah.
I think I know where the problem is, but I will not stop it. We're in the digital age, as you can see, we're going to get remote communications. In today's digital age, the role of media departments is crucial. I mean, we are in a place where we've got to put out information. Something happens, you're waiting for press statement. They shape brands, we help in fan engagement, we help in generating revenue. From managing things like social media accounts to producing high quality content, departments are at the forefront of. marketing and communication strategies. So let's just look at some of the things that bring this importance to light. Building and maintaining brand identity. Again, we're in a day and age, I can see my friend there in a Scotland replica shirt. Yep. That's a brand, right? And obviously it has been put out by the Scottish Rugby Union, but it's also being communicated more by the marketing and communications departments. And that's just some of the things, boosting that identity and telling people, hey, this is the authentic kit, right? You can get it from us at this and this outlet. With that, you're able to control the narrative, you're able to shape public perceptions, create trust and loyalty among fans. Fan connections. Let's talk about connecting with fans. We are all fans of sports teams, apart from the teams that we represent. We have an affiliation with them. Again, we have the power to harness this passion by creating, sharing content that resonates with fans. This includes highlights, behind the scenes footage, interactive social media campaigns, player interviews. This content keeps fans coming back to your platform and also now building visibility for that particular platform and by extension, the team. Revenue generation. Obviously, we are still in an amateur sport, but the media department is key in pushing products of the organization. I think we can share this with you. We'll not really delve in it right now. Crisis management. I support a football team that was founded in 1964, has been 12-time champions of the Kenyan Premier League. Allow me to digress. But their last title was in 1998. I don't know how many of you are alive in 98. Over the past few years, or the past few weeks, they've not performed well. And there's been a lot of talk in terms of the management of the team. We've been seeing stories that the coach is going, and so on and so forth. Mini crisis, in my opinion. And you just feel that a media department, again, is crucial in handling these situations. You can issue statements, conduct interviews, manage public relations to mitigate the impact of negative events on an organization's reputation. In addition to that, timely and transparent communication is key. For example, if the coach is going, just say he's going. Let me just give you this slide over here. This is Everton Football Club from a few years ago, when Marco Silva was their head coach. And yes, he didn't have such a good tenure. And at the point, coming out the rumors and the lies, the communication came from the club that the coach is going. The other picture in the slide is that of Andrew Amonde and Ronald Bukusi. It may not necessarily be a crisis, but the fact that you as media are able to get your club reps to actually talk about an issue that is affecting the club gives it authenticity and credibility. Now, let's talk about global reach. We are all aspiring to reach as many people as we want all over the world. We all have fan bases. And through social media, through live streaming, through multilingual content, let not multilingual content bother you too much. You can channel your content in Kiswahili as well. I think it still qualifies multilingual. You're able to transcend boundaries, reach other niches as well, and cultures. And who knows, you can also win other fans. This global reach not only expands your fan base, who knows, you could get international sponsors and other partners as well. So these are just some of the examples of what you can do with the global reach. You can use email marketing, live streaming, social media platforms as well to help push your content. Again, the world is constantly changing, it's constantly evolving. There is a number of you who are here physically present with us at this session. And there is also a constituency who are out of town. And we have created a live link for them. That's also part of the reason we were running up and down earlier. But the whole point is to bring them involved. So your media team, wherever you are, is required to stay at the forefront of these developments to stay relevant. We really cannot be operating like it's 1963 and we are writing letters or sending telegrams when technology has changed and helped us give out information almost instantaneously. Now, women's sport is big. As a matter of fact, in about an hour's time, the Kenya Lionesses Sevens will be opening their campaign in Tunisia in the Rugby Africa Women's Sevens. We have another team playing at 4 p.m., still the Lionesses in the WXB3 tournament in Dubai. Now, this is a platform as well to encourage equal attention and coverage of women's sport. You can be able to break down gender stereotypes and inspire the next generation of female athletes. And at that point, I must say that for the 1, 2, 3, 4 ladies in the house, thank you so much for being a part of the rugby fraternity. And we do hope that this knowledge that you're picking up here today will not only help your teams, but also help you in terms of not only talking about rugby, but women's sport in general. So in liaison with your clubs, there is a whole, what can I say, an untapped, whatever. There's a whole, it's some untapped potential that can be reached from dealing with women's sport. In conclusion, the sports landscape has seen that media departments are indispensable for sports organizations. We can't work without them. They're responsible for creating brand identity, for connecting fans, for generating revenue, managing crisis, expanding reach, driving innovation, promoting gender equality. The role goes beyond traditional media, extends into the digital realm. We're engaging content and communication, strategic communication are paramount. And as this presentation comes to a close, and I acknowledge the latecomers who have come in a bunch, the sports industry continues to evolve. Media departments as well continue to be at the forefront of sports organizations' success. So my conclusion from this is that whatever you're doing in terms of reporting, just know that it is much more than for your department. It is a whole brand. You're carrying a whole, like my former team manager at KCB used to say, you're carrying the flag of the team. So we need to have a seriousness towards the way that we communicate and realize that we are communicating to global audiences, to potential sponsors, to families. So that is the conclusion of that rather rushed presentation on the importance of media departments in sports organizations. If you allow me, because I'm time conscious, I had to think about the 2 other presenters who are here today. Allow me to jump into the second presentation, which is closely interconnected to this first one. It is the do's and don'ts of media management in sport. Again, let's just look at some of the do's. At a point, and I'll give you an example, when I started out just doing this, managing the KCB Facebook page many years ago, it was all about just putting content. But as time went by, you realize that you just cannot put out content haphazardly and recklessly. So it's important to have a comprehensive strategy, something that aligns your team or your organization's goals and values, and also choose the platforms and channels that you utilize, set clear objectives for those channels. The second one, fan engagement. Again, it has been an evolution. So from back in the day, you just put out communication, and it was like you are talking at the masses, the people who are reading, right? But you forget that there's also a need for you to entice them to come and give you feedback, come and be a part of the family. And it comes with the things like trivia, live events, looking for fan opinions, responding to comments and messages that need attention promptly, showing appreciation for their support. I'm sure many of you in your teams, in your platforms are already doing it. And I just want to reaffirm that it is something important. Now, let's go to transparency. I gave you the example a few moments ago of that football team who are going through a transition in coaching. Be open and transparent with the media and the public. Share information about injuries, team decisions, organizational changes in a timely manner. The thing, even I dare say here at the organization that I work for, is that we tend to be hamstrung by a lot of bureaucracy. And therefore, by the time we're putting out communication, it may be transparent, but it's not timely. It's already reached Lokichogyo while you're still in Nairobi typing the official statement. So if it's something that you guys, all of us can do collectively in terms of being timely, transparent, I do believe that it changes the way also we are perceived, and you also become credible. Now, let's go to content quality. The beauty of progress is that people start noticing the things you're doing. A few years ago, we'd be comfortable recording things on a phone, rather cheap phone with a poor screen. And you realize that at a particular point, the feedback that you start getting is not necessarily negative. It shows you that there are a lot more eyes on you, on the things that you're doing. And as a result, you need to step up. With progress, there comes improvement. So create quality content that showcases your team's achievements, behind the scenes stories, and human interest stories as well. Again, consistency is key for content delivery. Now, let's get to this one, media training. There's that famous joke, if you may, of a Kenyan athlete who won a race. And when he's interviewed, he says that he's a racist because his mother races and his father races, right? Obviously, he means well with what he's saying. But in an ever-changing world, a sensitive world, those comments may be misconstrued. So what do we do? Encourage your athletes within your team setup to, first of all, know how to answer questions. There is no harm at a particular point even saying you're not comfortable in answering this question. Secondly, some of us will struggle to speak in English because the interview was done in English. There is no harm in speaking in Kiswahili, or better still, your mother tongue, because there will be somebody to translate. And in that translation, the context of the story, I think, becomes even greater. So what I'm trying to say is that teach your athletes, your team members, how to effectively communicate with the media, how to maintain a positive image and handle tough questions. Handling tough questions, I'll give you an example once again, hilarious but true. An athlete was asked a question, and on live TV, they actually scratched their head and said, "Hey, you're new," right? So back to what I was saying, even a no comment or I'd rather pass or leave it to management, it needs to happen. We've talked about crisis management. Now, it's important to have a crisis management plan in place. Be prepared to handle controversies or scandals promptly and professionally. I've handled quite a few here, and I have literally learned on the job. And I do feel that it's also something that everyone here needs to be aware of and need to learn. Relationships. Building relationships with journalists is important. Foster those relationships with journalists, with media outlets, provide them with access and exclusive stories that can lead to more coverage. By saying that, you can, for example, have like open days at your clubs during training before a big game, allow the media to come, take photos, do media interviews, do features as well. Basically open it up and build that relationship. You don't know what it can do for you. Again, on my years of experience having worked within this organization, there have been times when we literally had zero in terms of coins for public relations and all those kind of endeavors. But because you've been able to build the relationship, you've been able to have the goodwill, you are able to have your teams, your programs featured. And at the end of the day, it's good for the team. It's also good for the sponsor. It's good for the fans. It's good for the community. Allow me to go to the next slide and just show you some of the do's that are encouraged. However, Kenyans are not big on autograph signing, but it's still one of those things. Having sessions where players can be at a place, give autographs, have sessions with the kids, fun engagements as well, media engagements as well. Back to what I was just saying, the open days where you can talk about, since it's pre-season, your team's new signings, your ambitions for the coming season, what didn't work last season. The whole point is put your story out there. Club statements as well, as again, I refer to that example of Everton Football Club and them losing their manager. Now, the don'ts. Neglecting social media. How many of us here handle their club social media accounts? By show of hands. It's a tough job, isn't it? You get negative comments, right? You get abuse. A lot of things happen, right? Also happens for us. Do not ignore social media. Be proactive in managing your online presence. I know it's hard. It gets to you sometimes. You're all human beings. It's hard. But stick to the goal, stick to the objective, and be like a rhinoceros, for lack of a better example, charging straight at its objective. Same thing. If you want to communicate, communicate. Now, fan feedback. This one is dicey. And to some, it may sound rich coming from me, but I still encourage that you do not ignore fan feedback. Because if you dismiss fan concerns or criticism, there will be a disconnect between the organization and its supporters. If anything, and again, remember I said we're human beings, right? Use that constructive criticism as a room for improvement. I know that some of those comments may be chilling, maybe or 15, or even a day or two, but come back and respond to that. Let's have that constant engagement. Miscommunication. We are all guilty of that. I'll be the first to own up. There have been times when we have also struggled in terms of putting out accurate statements. Now, this can damage your reputation. Make sure that all communications are accurate, they are well crafted. So this means coordination with other facets of your team's organizational structure. For example, like an official statement. Let's move away from injury and let's talk about death. Death is something that has happened in the rugby community. It's something that we have witnessed over the past decade, and we have been called upon to do reports about it. In such scenarios, for these serious kind of communications, put your heads together and decide that we're putting out a joint statement. It may be between one club, two clubs, three clubs, and the union, but decide that we are putting out a joint statement so that there's clarity. The reason I say that is that in reporting about this unfortunate incident, there have been spin-offs and it leads to conspiracy theories. But if we, as the rugby community, as the rugby family, can have a way of putting our heads together and putting out united statements, and serious matters, I think it does good not only for your organizations, it does good for the game as well. Now, no comment. Again, there's an irony here because in the previous slide, when we're talking about media training for athletes, I actually encouraged you to tell your athletes, if it's a difficult question, you can actually say no comment, right? And I gave you the example of that athlete was asked something, scratched their head and said, "Ay, hini ngumu." In that particular case, it's agreed. But now the media team, again, you are the voice of the club, you're the voice of the organization. Again, just as it is with death, put your heads together on a dicey subject. Have a united front coming from the team, from the organization, and put it out there. It may take a day, it may take two, but a response is better than no comment. Feeding drama. Unnecessary conflicts and controversies will arise with other organizations, with other teams. Yes, banter is allowed, but I think at the end of the day, you set up on a new season, you set up on your goals and your objectives, stick to that, because at some point you'll find like 32 weeks later, somebody's referring you to an incident from week one, and they're basically playing on your emotion to try and drag you back. You see, now that also makes you lose your focus. It makes you lose your direction. And at the end of the day, you don't look serious, right? Analytics. Social media managers, again, in the house, please, hand by show of hands. How many of us also follow through with analytics? Biggie, James Jenga, sorry, I know you as Biggie, and anyway, we can be informal here, there's no problem. Biggie, with the Oilers, on average, your Twitter analytics for, say, 2 months ago, what was your reach? Yeah. That's been the average reach. Average 70. Okay. Now you have the analytics, right? But what are you doing with them? What are you doing to improve them? To say that you want to have a bigger reach, for example.
The analytics informs our the quality of content. So maybe if it is a low hand, you know that the quality of content maybe is not that the next month we try and improve on the quality of the content.
Thank you very much. Moto Williams, also welcome. Feel at home. You have missed 2 presentations, but we'll send them to you on email.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm coming to the end of my 2 presentations. So media management in sports organizations, in teams, is a multifaceted endeavor. It requires planning, communication, but most importantly, adaptability. Remember, we are living in a very dynamic environment. This is Kenya, right? We have internet on the go. You can get 1 GB for 20 bob for 1 hour. You can work with it. I'm just trying to talk about the adaptability because it even happens to me. Let no one cheat you. But away from that, planning and communication are equally key. And if you're able to structure your communications, I begin to take you more seriously. I begin to say that this is a credible source. I can actually come to this page and get information. So by following the do's and don'ts and avoiding the don'ts, you'll be able to build a strong media presence. You'll be able to foster fun engagement, but most importantly, guys, a positive image for your sports organization, for your sports team. So as I bring these 2 presentations to a close, remember that transparency, consistency, commitment to your core values are essential in navigating the complex world of sports media. So that's it. I think I've taken less than 30 minutes for those two presentations. If you need these presentations, like I said, we can share them via email. Thank you so much for your time. I'll open the floor to probably 3 or 4 questions. I'm very conscious of time. Yeah. There are no questions, so
I'm going to ask something in relation to about tough questions, yeah? Okay. You've talked about tough questions. I'm asking in regard to there's something that happened there that I remember when Patrick Odongo was playing, he lost his mom. And when we were at the airport, someone asked the question, of course, was it tough for you? And one of the players was actually angry with us because we asked that question. How do you deal with a situation where someone is angry, but at the same time, I think what Patrick went through, someone else has also gone through it, and it might be, it's like a double-edged sword. It might be an inspiration to someone else, and at the same time, you also don't want to, hurt or just be inconsiderate, rather, when you're asking such questions. I'm sorry, I had to give that example because it's something that happened. How do we, as how do we handle that?
well, like you said, it's a double-edged sword, and there's something called discernment. Number one. Yeah. So, like you said, it's a double-edged sword, because you have a right to ask a question, but then there's also discernment. But number two, I don't want to be a censor and try and stop you from answering those questions. So
Yeah. Now, I think, I don't know if other people encounter this. When you get funds, or maybe there's information that you guys know, the information has already gotten out. How do you best contain such situations? When you've gotten, for example, let's say something has come out of the club, like let's not even talk about coaches. Let's say a player is probably leaving the club, it's in the mid-season, and this information is already out there, and sometimes probably you don't know about it. You're coming to learn about it maybe 2-3 hours later. How do you handle that situation? Because most of the times utapata fans huko wanakuambia admin umekuwa wapi kutuambia kitu kai sijui, as in they don't think about that.
Allow me to answer this question with a bit of bravado. Club media guys, nyinyi ndo mautero. Yeah? You guys go through a lot, abuse, yada yada. So the information is out, right? Number one, don't panic. It's out. You cannot go back 3 years. You cannot turn back time. What you can do is put out a statement. And sometimes the statement that you're putting out is even more comprehensive. Remember, that was a rumor, right? But now you're actually saying this guy has left. We thank him for so and so. You know, you can actually now turn the focus towards you. So the fans will always tell you, admin ulikuwa wapi. It will always happen. I'll give you an example. Allow me just to digress a bit. When Kenya was still on the World 7 series, and it was those games for usiku 3 a.m. So I watched the first game. I knew the second game is at 3. I woke up at 6. And my inbox was flooded. But it is what it is. So it's just about you seizing the day, seizing the moment, and taking control of it. Thank you. Chichi?
Good morning. Okay, at this time and age, as we are growing as social media handlers and content creators, just recently we had issues with copyright. So my question is, as a content creator at the club level, how do you go about just being on the right channel in terms of copyright issues with content?
Okay, please clarify what content and what copyright issue. What's putting a video it was struck by Facebook. Okay, for video, I'll speak from a career, and many other times they will give us highlights and so on and so forth, which we ask if this can be shared. That's well and good. Photography is still a dicey area because we don't really we have somebody who's helping us and who still claims rights, if you understand me. But going forward, I do believe that this is something that we can sit, especially with the legal experts. Me, I'm not a legal expert. I don't know much about copyrights. But once, thank you. That's the first question.
So my question is with regard to underage players. How are you handling, like, especially with us being third parties most of the times, because we're dealing with students in schools, we're wondering how to feature them in the media and not still have their safeguarding at heart. How do you deal with that as the national side as well?
Well, again, as the game continues to grow, new challenges come, such as the issue of underage players. I really don't see any issue per se in like restricting them from the media. But in terms of safeguarding, I think that's where now you, as the custodian, step in and actually can control the narrative. Because remember, this is somebody young who probably doesn't have a full mental faculty. So, and those are now the people that you have to guide through like what I was saying, through that chaperoning. In terms of and that is also part of the reason why we're having these kind of sessions, because I must tell you that for the longest time, it's coaching, training, and education which always get a priority. But if you can also start looking more into media and upskilling our people in media, well and good. But your question is well noted. I hope you've taken the piece of advice that I said there and that it did get lost in my many words. Thank you. We're done for questions. Okay, maybe a comment in a Kenyan setting is usually, can we do the questions and then we come to the comment and then, okay, wow.
First of all, on the copyright issue, and also on the underage. So for both cases, first of all, consult a legal person. Secondly, the Commission of Data Protection open, by the way, to have this discussion, because I know as an institution where I work, we had to seek those conversations, and they're willing to help with information. Thirdly, if you're speaking to underage people who then you don't have their consent, please always ask when you're asking the questions, can I get this comment and who can I talk to? Who can give me that authority? It always helps you, because then you would have those legal issues or legal impracticalities beyond your interview. Yep.
Yeah, thank you. So my question based was on strategy. You had mentioned a little bit on it, and it was on basically as you try to as you work towards building up your social media presence. Yeah, you will find that you'll have different situations where you'll have teams or clubs or institutions with lower impressions than others. So for instance, if I was to take an example such as the Oilers example, yeah? So Oilers has really good numbers, enviable, honestly. You have 70,000 impressions a month, but you have another club with less than that, let's say an average of 2,000 impressions. So when it comes to developing the strategy, you cannot obviously use the same strategy as them, because I'd assume that if you're getting, for instance, let's say 2,000 impressions a month, your strategy will be more towards building up skill, vis-a-vis the 70,000 impressions, which will be towards more exploitation of such analytics. So my question was, how exactly do you go about building such? And if you would mind, are there any pointers that you will give towards especially the area of scale?
Yeah, let me just start with building up the numbers. There's no thing that beats consistency. You just need to be out there, put out information that is both unique and it's not repetitive, but it has to be consistent, because I also understand that sometimes the impressions go down because you posted today, then again you post after 2 weeks. So long as there are things going on, and some of the strategies that you can use don't have to be rugby related. Remember, we're trying to showcase the team, the sports organization, as having a family feel, as having a human feel. So you can tap into things like causes, for example. Next month is November, the Men's Health Awareness Month. You can tap into that, encourage people to go for testing, to check on their health, and so on and so forth, keeping it in a rugby context as well. And on a day-to-day, remember they said Rome was not built in a day. So long as you have the consistency in your messaging, and then also with things like which institution team are you from? Kiambu Rugby. If you're doing things like age grade, all those things, every little thing counts. Initiatives with women, initiatives with the society, initiatives with age grade, talk about it, right? Those are the things that now build you up. It's not only about game day, but it's about Kiambu Rugby as an institution, as a family. That for me is what worked. And I think I dare say, it's something I recommend as well, because I've been in a number of scenarios where we've been about growing numbers. Last question, George Asin.
Morning. Mine is in the issue of transparency. The same way Midecha asked the question of when do you know what to ask and how to put it out? We have, like now, us social media managers of the clubs, we're in contact with the players. At times, issues might arise. I'll use examples without mentioning names of maybe doping scandals or the former Two Queens players. Your club is already out there, but you as a social media manager, do you choose to protect the player first? Because at times players are also hurting and regretting the actions, but you still have to come out and either deny, accept. So in such scenarios where players are arrested or there's a court case involved and do you choose to protect this guy's mental health at that particular moment? And, just, I don't know, but I know you're understanding my point. Like, do you get to protect the player first, and forgo your job at that particular moment in that particular issue, because you'll find right now the way the Facebook page Rugby Banter is very, the people who have information about, I think, even your house before you. So like, what do you do in such a situation where you have a player that you even know and you know what they're going through, but you have to get this statement out, especially on issues that can tarnish their reputations and their names for a long time?
I'll give you 2 words. Official statement. Much as you're close with these players, much as you're tight, you may even live in the same house. At the end of the day, remember, you're representing your club, your organization, right? So the official dome, unfortunately, comes into play here. You have to be professional. You're thinking about everyone in that particular point. So the communication must come from the figurehead of that particular club, be it the club chairman, the club patron, and then you can put it out. Because many other times as well, we find ourselves with that kind of information. We find ourselves in those kind of scenarios. But much as you have an internet connection in a comp and can actually go and type, you have to protect the integrity of your brand. You have to wait for that official communication. Guys, the questions are many. I'll share my contacts in case you've got more. I had asked Wanjala Were to come and also give a presentation. With me, I really don't know how to prepare people, so he looks a bit shocked, but regardless, we move, as many rugby people like to say. So just a brief introduction. Wanjala Were has been a rugby player, has been a journalist. He's big on data, and he's going to talk about something related to data. I don't want to steal his thunder. Over to you.
And is there a way I can project a few things? I have sent you a WhatsApp. So, morning. How are you? I think it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks, Daudi. I think he's the one who reached out, Daudi, Richard, and Kwambo. So I'm Wanjala from Tisini. How many of you have interacted with Tisini? Scientist. Big. It's a pleasure to have met you physically. Who else? Senior. Charles. So I used to play rugby, but not many people remember. I think I was bigger then. One achievement was winning Gladys with Impala way back 2003. I don't know, not with Impala, with Machine. With Machine. That was way back in 2003. So I think that time, I don't know how many of you remember, I think I kicked the winning drop goal. Then Machine won Fladis after. Pardon? Yeah. So I wanted to present my presentation in just 2. First, the media side, because most of you handle the social media, and then the data side. Correct. So, you'll help. Huh? So I wanted to start with a small trivia and ask Richard to be very silent. So a very simple question. You'll forgive me if I've bordered on the wrong side, but if I may ask, in which part of the country do you think we have the fastest growing lesbian population? Part of Kenya. In which part of Kenya do you think we have the fastest growing lesbian population? If it's a touchy topic, you'll forgive me. Nairobi. Western. Why? A lot of? Uh-huh.
I think that's the biggest factor.
That's the biggest factor.
I schooled there, so.
and many of them using passport. So we can learn English by the net. So we are assume their own young.
Okay, it's interestingly, there's data to prove it, but it is spot on. Yeah, Western. A final trivia question again, Richard. Which part of Kenya has the best talent? Football. As in, we find the best talented footballers. Which part of Kenya? Western. Coast.
Which sport?
Wewe una leakage wewe. Which part? No, by the way, it's able to explain. It's central. Football. Football. It's central. Central because of two factors. Because of two factors. One, the social economic factor where most teens are brought up by single parenthood. And then, so they're more driven to be in an activity which is not alcohol or something like that. So they're driven to go towards football. These are case study of data we've done in part of central regions, like Murang'a. By the way, we followed them for quite a bit of time. Murang'a, there's a town called Kabati. How many of you know Kabati? Unajua Kabati? Very excellent football team. And it's slowly just rising up the ranks. And then number two, because of their structure. You see, in Western, most guys big, masculine. You play a more physical game. So they play a more thinking game, more tactical, more thinking game. So that's the second part of the presentation, but that's data. So for the first part, let me just take you through something interesting. I think most of you, I'm supposed to be, this is for speaker. Okay, for most of you, I'll just tackle one thing. I know most of you are embedded in clubs, and the interesting thing about your work, I think if you can have the non-dis article up. One key thing, you guys sit on the best content that now we're moving into, especially the best content being what? Being live content. And then, because we say live content is king of kings. And then after the live content, people always want to know the stories behind the live content. Correct. So let me just give you one example, then I'll give two others. My background has been in journalism. I think I've worked with Charles here for quite a bit. But my background was more in financial journalism, and I did a bit more of rugby, but rugby from a numbers perspective. So one of the interesting things was just this 7 series circuit. I was curious what was happening at Nondis. I don't know how many of you followed Nondis during the 7th circuit. I think they didn't start off very well, did they? They had a pathetic start. They were always wappy, 13, 12, what. But I got curious. They started really improving. Okay, one reason maybe could have been because some of the players were called to the national team, right? For some of the clubs, right? But okay, even if we discount that, when I sat down with the Nondis team, is there anybody from Nondis here? Oh yeah, we're with you in Eldoret. But when I sat down with them, they had very interesting content. Okay, I was a bit biased because I knew Ben Nyambu from a way back. But when I sat down with Ben, he opened up about how they just called a meeting just to discuss, okay, what was happening at Nondis. And they called the players to the meeting, then they were discussing, okay, what's happening. And it was a very thorough and brutal meeting. But that is very good content that I think if you put it out in social media, I think if you reach out to the newspapers to find out, that's content that actually helps to grow the club. True or not? But how do we put it? You see? So one of the interesting things I also found about Nondis was, I think after they were relegated, they just accepted their fate. but I've not come across an article or post just saying after they were relegated to the championship that night after they were relegated. I think they gave me inside stories how they went, they drank, then they decided that's our fate, and then how we'll come back. But you hype up their press. Just something small and Beckham is like huge. I think we don't have stories. I don't know, maybe we are shy or something like that, but how can we tell a lot of these stories? And as people within these clubs, we have a lot of social media pages, or if you reach out to a journalist, then you tell them, hey, do you know what's really happening? Because it helps them look good. So one of the main things is how do we reach out and as social media managers, as managers within these clubs, how do you reach out and tell out these stories? Correct. So like, is there anyone from Daystar? Daystar? Do you know Nani's story? Wambugu, the flyer. Have you ever shared it? Huh? Why? Okay, I spent maybe just 10 minutes with Wambugu. Wambugu was saying that he studied where? Vihiga. Do you know when he was going to Vihiga, he'd never gone to Western. Somebody was telling me people from Western used to think people from Western have tails, not Wambugu, but somebody else. But the day he was going to Western, he'd never gone to Vihiga, and I think he was going with his dad. Then in the middle of the road, alikuwa anabeba his suitcase. Do you know this suitcase za mabati? Sijui ka dropped between the middle of the road. That sijui was picking up back. So the dad couldn't travel to Western, a foreign place he doesn't know. But to Western, I think, and even in Vihiga, used to not go for preps because he was treated as a king in rugby. Such stories, how such stories out there. That was going to be my challenge, such content, just to be able to put our names out there. Because there's a lot of good happening in the clubs when I interact with you guys. There's a lot of good. So let me just show you one good, then I'll move to the data. Do you have the tweet for Oilers? Biggie, do you remember this tweet? We need to enlarge it. How do you enlarge? Right click and Control plus.
That's what the person was telling me, come and do and then open new tab. And then better. Thank you for that knowledge. I think so good.
Biggie, do you remember that tweet? Unaikumbuka? What was your thinking behind it? What was the impression? Just say it as we move on to the next segment.
Let's come sitting.
So basically, I think that's when we started interaction. As a club, we should have a data process, but it's not as detailed. So for the 7 circuits this year, what I wanted to do was really put out the work that the players are doing. Sometimes we go unnoticed, sometimes you can see a player and we talk of pitch, then I'm talking. Nobody knows what the player was doing, nobody knows why they are being selected. But the data, it keeps the fans informed. Like when you're watching a player in the center, what does a center do? Like I remember for the data, I remember this Anya. You could see Anya in the 7 series, in the 7 circuits. So there's a difference. Because you know the data in some circuits. So I think that's why that's the thinking.
So as I move now to the second segment, the first segment was just storytelling and the content you guys sit on. So the second segment is just on the data. I like what Biggie did with this because it just showcased the players first and foremost, right? Just that in a very unique and different way. And this data, I think, was available within the circuit. So how do we tell such stories even on our socials? Correct. So I'll just come to two other data points. But first, let me ask you guys a question. Which do you think is the most important two sets of data which are very key? Now I'm putting on Tisini, the data, the tech company where we collect data. Which two data sets are very key and which you guys sit on? Don't be shy, Sema. Scientist? Who can try? Yes.
So like apart from the scores, the check other what's being said, maybe it's like what's there, what the sharp is, that's everything that she must
From that. Who else can try? Just speak up.
Perspective,
So a key takeaway, the two data sets which are very key and you guys sit on and you can control. Number one is name. Name of the player. Why? Because in the 7 series circuit, for example, you'd find this person is named Peter Opio. Correct. That's the first leg. Sindio. Then the second leg you find is named who? Opio. 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 Opio Pondo or Opio P. That creates a very big confusion. But you see, you guys can really manage that because then I think those are a circuit where there was a confusion between the top try scorers, and it just happened because of that. Because one person can be, if your names, if that can be very consistent, even in your social media postings, you just consistently post. If this person is Peter Opio, he's Peter Opio throughout. Or if he's going by the nickname X, that's the nickname he goes with. That's one key data set that is very important because it helps now identify the player, helps the player's name is out there. And you guys manage that. The second data set is jersey numbers. Ulijua? Jersey numbers. Jersey numbers in the sense that if game day, this person you said is going to put on jersey number 16, let it be 16. And insist on him. Kwanza Nondis, we had a fight with them huko Eldoret. The person was given jersey number X. On the pitch, she put on jersey number Y. That brings a whole confusion because it's from the jersey number, from the names that some of this data is really picked up. True. So if you can really help on that. So now to my second last point. 7 series circuit. Why did KCB win? They have more money. Ati? Why did Cabras lose? Ati?
We started with Cabras coming very well.
was poor.
He was sometimes inconsistent, but the body.
Yeah, they just go and look for.
The ones who are still back in the team. Trying to now. Very strong on content and data.
KCB.
Very strong at first. In the for instance.
It kama.
I think it's reflected across the team
Mm.
that they're not only dependent on certain players and they learn from their mistakes. So if they lose a game because they had certain errors with certain players, that doesn't happen again.
Interesting. Is your hand up? So just go to the podcast. Okay, it has loaded. Can you say this? Just look for who is Anya.
There's no such.
No. You can see from the names. I was looking for Asati.
He's a certain. He's a certain.
Okay. Yeah. If you can. Okay. Can you all see this? I think the answers have come out correctly. So the KRU allowed us to post this during the 7 series circuit. It's a simple tracker, very simple, but it has a lot. And I don't know how many of you in the social media are able to access this and just tell stories of your players. So one of the things that we looked at was when you rank this index, just look at number 30 and number 31. Who's at number 30? Number 31. So when Asati was called up, who was his replacement? At KCB. Position. Yeah, position wise.
No, he said who replaces Manuel.
In terms of position. Position. What position was Wahinya playing? 10. But Asati was also a key player maker for KCB. So when we did this index, it was like when they lost Asati, Wahinya came in strongly, more stronger. But from the data, how can we use this to tell stories of our successes as social media guys? So what we're working with KRU is we'll be able now to have this data out. Are we together? So how do we do that? Because now data becomes a very key in terms of telling us our content. By the way, one of the key things for even Formula One, what is it? Data. Even like the EPL technically, which is the best league in the world? Football. Technical. La Liga. Daudi? Well done. Well done. Si ndio bana, kwani mjamini? Daudi is always there for KPL. Which is the last KPL game you went for? Okay, EPL, the thing EPL has, and maybe the thing which KPL even doesn't have, is what? Marketing and storytelling. EPL can tell the most perfect story just with the data, with the numbers, nini. But KPL, if you go for KPL games, the quality of the players, excellent. But do they tell their stories? So even us, when we follow the rugby circuit, the quality of the rugby, the quality of the player, Kwanza Strathmore. up. Very interesting. But how do we tell these stories so that we market and sell our? That's it, by the way. And when you market and sell, since you guys are in charge of the media side and social media, what comes in? Yes. True or not? Then this thing of, hey, ati clubs are broke. Aiko. So, like these data sets, hoping that we'll avail them during the season. If you have any questions, any concerns, you can I'll share my contacts, then you have that. Correct. So maybe to my final presentation. Ama mnataka trivia ingine? That one. You want another trivia? Charles, I know you Charles, I know you got a lot of flack for AFCON, Ama. That article. That one. I think you'll speak about it. But you see, the interesting point is he sold himself very well. You got a lot of Nini. The most read articles in India. Everybody now is searching for you, even the Ugandan. But he'll speak about it. Anyway, to my final presentation is this. Now, with our data and the technology, what we're building is just, you know what, unasikianga AI, you think, oh, AI edge. By the way, with this data, we're building AI tools that can help you as social media. If you integrate, it can even just help you tell your stories and also help your clubs. By the way, all these things in life is just how we sell our story. And you guys, that's why I think you're the key people in this. When you sell your story, you make what? Audiences, then you make money. So let me just take you 1 minute just through this. Maybe when you scroll down, just scroll down. Yeah. So to assist you guys at the end of the season or during the season, what you do is we'll be visualizing the data for you, for all the clubs. Scientists, I'm sure you know this in and out. So the visuals just give the events. I'm doing this for football, for our football club, because they gave us consent to present this. Otherwise, we never present this to anyone. We just give it to the club. The club knows what to do with it. You sign off, you use it. But we never share this to the public or everything because it gives you away. So, like one of the key things that we've done, if you can, this is for a club called City Stars. Nairobi City Stars. They play in the KPL, the best technical league. Sindio Daudi. So we did this for City Stars for 2 or 3 seasons. And also for Kwambo's beloved club. I know he's not saying it. his beloved club. By the way, you see, like with FC, the biggest problem they have is just the communication out there. You see, but we're doing the data for them, then we're helping them, it will communicate. Because in the world we've moved to it, people want to see numbers. And that number being told in a very easy way. So just 1 minute. So this, we visualize this for City Stars. So on the right side is the events, top there is the player, and then this is the period. So I'll just click one event, just one simple event. We just click on goal. Click on goal, event, goal. Yeah. Yes. So now, when you follow them for about 11 games, we visualize this data for them. And it's the same thing, by the way, with all your clubs. We had a presentation with KCB. We visualized for them why they lost Cabras. They understood why they lost Cabras. So it's the same thing that you can do for all your clubs. But also, for us, the key thing becomes when you visualize for this, what stories do you put out? That's why I like Biggie's example. Excellent. So when you visualize this, for example, on any event, when you click, you can click, then you see the player. So we've clicked on goals. Which player has the most goals? Timothy. And then when do they score? The bottom, on the bottom right is the period they score. When do they score most of their goals? Because in the top 1 to 15 minutes, how many goals? Just before? They score most goals before half time. And then
During so it's final 15.
they score. So when don't they score? When don't they score? They don't score between also 16 and 30th. And also they don't score between 61 and 75. Those are periods which are missing. But is that excellent content? But also for your teams, does it, you see now, like in this season, City Stars has not lost any second half. And now they're scoring more goals in the second half. First half, it's a work in progress. But we found out the reason they're not scoring between 61 and 75th minute. So we corrected that. And once we corrected it, is that content? That's content. If you go out there, then you tell it in your social media space. That's content. So for the clubs, they're willing just to work and visualize this dashboard. But in as much as you visualize it, how using it within the club and how using it on social, just to tell your stories. Because that becomes a powerful thing. Final trigger. Timothy Uma. Who can guess how much you're sold for? Kenyan shillings. 120,000. 200,000. Another guess? Or to a day star? Charles?
Yes.
He was sold for 22 million. Kenya shillings. Yeah, to a foreign club. But you see, because of data, again, because of data, this season they're having a player can sell for 30 million. Yeah. But you see now, how do they take it to the next level and you start telling that story? Timothy Uma's, by the way, Timothy Uma's key things was he could score a goal in every game. He could provide an assist. When he was on the pitch, offsides, the team usually just had like 2 offsides. Why? Because he could pass all the way from the halfway pitch. He spreads the ball from the halfway pitch. We followed him for like a whole season, 2 seasons, in fact. So when you look at when he's on the pitch, his offsides are, the team has like 2 offsides. When he's not started, the team has like 6 offsides. Simple that. But you see the story behind it. Can we push it on social media? Can you do the same for rugby? It grows the popularity of the game. It grows your club. And we're here to assist you. I think that's it. Poleni nimechukua muda. If you have any questions, let me know.
Of course, data is very important, yeah, and many teams and organizations basically are using data, to drive the objectives and all that, yeah. Given the data of the guy you just mentioned, yeah, very good data, yeah? Very good statistics, yeah. But will you also consider the environment? Because if those data are compared to, say, a player who's playing in the Premier League, yeah, with the less data, yeah, of course the player in the Premier League will be much better. So how strong will that data be to force a club to part with that kind of money to buy a player from the environment is coming from with that data?
Okay, having just said it out one season. So this next 2 seasons, the thing that we've been trying to, actually that's an excellent question. So the thing that we've been trying to do is compare the environments. So you look at the Kenyan environment, if his matrix is like this, how does he measure up with the other? So it's been an evolving, you see, like this player for 30 million, want to look at in Kenya, how it is and compared now to the EPL. So another thing is like for City Stars, every month we have to spend 4 hours just going through their data. It helps them improve in terms of performance, but it also generates a lot of content to market the club. But yeah, that's a very good question. So we realized that then this season, that's what we're innovating, just looking at the different environments, looking at the different leagues.
Yeah, so my question will be on the relationship between whatever data we're able to harvest, and how, in your opinion, how best do you think we'll be able to manipulate it, or basically to commercialize it in developing relationship with people maybe outside of rugby? Because what you've talked about mostly is towards people within the rugby environment or within the sports environment. But if you are to grow, or basically, if I was to use Kiambu as an example, if Kiambu needs to grow, we need partners from outside, maybe commercial partners. So would you mind talking a little bit about how it is that we can get data that can be valuable to maybe outside partners? Let's say, for instance, we have a real estate partner. How do we go about targeting data that will be valuable for this individual, for commercial purposes, but will be mutually beneficial for both the club and the outside partners?
I think maybe use an example. So for rugby, let me just use an example of rugby. Which sciences do you do in school? Which sciences? Ulifanya physics.
Oh, you mean?
Yeah, you personally. Chemistry and physics. I think as scientists here will tell you, the rugby data, we actually use it to teach physics in high schools. And remember, like for most of the clubs, what's your catchment? High schools. Would clubs and high schools be willing to partner with you? Then you commercialize that, or you bring in now other partners. Remember, so many of these corporates want to go into high school with something tangible. So how do you use that data to partner with high schools? For example, I've just used an example, like one example that you are thinking outside the box. That's one example. You see, the other example is we're trying to come up with a system where a player can trade his data, like Skiza Tunes. They earn money, the club earns money as well. So, like the physics example, I know Kiambu, you're in a catchment area, you have schools around, right? But you see, most of these schools, they relate best with rugby and maybe even the club. So if you go within and partner with these schools, then you say, okay, we'll use this and we'll come up with a model where we price it, and then we'll bring in even a partner, for example, like Brookside, who comes in and sponsors this and we use it to teach physics. Doesn't that generate money for you guys? And remember, the one thing I've just learned with like commercial partners, they want, yes, we'll support you, but what value are we getting in return?
Maybe just to refine the question, is that once we have all this data, there's data that the commercial entities will see as sexy data for themselves. But you see, this is not necessarily data that would be sexy for the club, so to speak. So how is it that basically, how is it that we're able to go into the divide so that we're able to harvest data that is basically valuable just to them and for us? And maybe how do we, if once we have it, how do we market this data then so that we can make it more appealing to this commercial or these corporates? Okay. For instance, we have the biggest business right now in Kiambu is real estate. So you find if commercial, okay, you have these companies trying to come in, so you have data. Let's say you have your engagement metrics and all that, yeah. So how are we able to collect data that will be valuable for these people in real estate? For instance, maybe they will be looking for a data set of people who will be willing to buy their product. And I have, maybe based on my analytics, ninaangalia ninaona wale watu wanafuata Kiambua between ages 18 to 25, hao ndio wengi. So how do I make this age or this data set, this age set basically appealing to these individuals, to this real estate company, that they will now want to partner with us, basically, yeah.
Daudi, can you allow me to use an example of Christie? Allow me just to touch a bit on Christie, what we did for Christie Sevens, the data. Christie Sevens, but not detail, but just an example. Yeah. Not detail, but you see, for Christie Sevens, if I can just relate, for Christie Sevens, I think Daudi was forward thinking. Then we're able to collect now data of the entrants, the people who are entering. You see, do you collect that data? Like how many people attend the games, what times they attend, then you profile them. You do it. And then now how do you relate it to the commercial entity? So it's finding out, by the way, one of the key things is finding out what's the interest for the commercial entity. Is it that they want to sell houses, and the guys who you've profiled, do they fit into their bracket? Are we getting there? Pardon?
Yeah.
So maybe it's also finding out their interest. What's their interest in terms of that data? Because the interesting thing about Chris is the wealth of the data that we got and the profile, and it gives even any commercial partner a lot of details to get into. So for me, it's asking you, the commercial or whichever real estate company, what's their interest? And from the data that you're collecting, can you tweak it so that you know what they're interested in? Are they looking for people who will buy mortgages, for example? Or are they looking for people who will rent, for example? And then now from your audiences, both who attend and also on social media, are you able now to get that data? I don't know if from the look of your face, I've not fully answered it, but maybe tunaweza onana.
Basically, as social media managers, what we do is create a following for our clubs. You know, with the data that they are giving us, like the data Tisini is coming up with, you can be able to build a following for your club, and then in turn, use the following to attract to the commercial partners that you want. So like he has said, you can check on the various, you can age, whatever. But first you have to use the data within your club to attract a following. Like for us at Oilers, there are certain players I know, if they're in the team, that day tunakafunga kwa gates. So how do you use that to build a following that consistently a commercial partner can tap into? So that's just simply kazi yetu. Simply build that following, then afterwards you can think about commercializing the following.
And also, I think the more you have that club engagement in the social media, it also builds your fan page, fan base. Because again, as much as you want more following online, also you host games, and the same fans can even assist you as a club to put more engagement in your site, because now they'll be reposting what you have. They know what is happening, and also themselves they can also create assist you to create that content for you. Yeah. And then also something that we try to exploit as Strathmore University, Strathmore Leos, I mean, is sometimes
we want to fans to know each player's name, and that's also you can see that during the series we were trying to put the pictures up there for people to know individual person. Even they can follow them. They know their height, they know their weight. See, these are something that maybe somebody would like to be interested, that if I want to be a good rugby player, what do I really need to do? And if I can see the players that have this certain, it also encourages somebody else to say, if so, what will I work out maybe to be the best like him?
I had like 7 questions, but now you've said one. I'll have to filter. I want to know what methods of data collection can we use at our disposal, like on match days, that will be easy for us to probably just provide simple information. Like, for example, I want to, the number of yellow cards someone gets, the number of red cards, whatever it is, what are the simple methods of data collection that we can use at our disposal that won't be, that won't need a whole day of, sitting down and analyzing the data? Are there simple methods that we can use apart from name and jersey number to probably just dispense information out there? Because sometimes there's a player who's out and probably people want to know what happened. Maybe they accumulated this number of yellow cards. What methods of data collection, simple data method collections, can we use?
I think the simplest is to download our app. It's a very simple app. Very simple. The second simplest is pen and paper. Okay, in my opinion, and having looked at the data a lot, if you use pen and paper, the one thing that many people don't really follow, and if you did it consistently, it provides a very interesting storyline, is when the try was scored, when the kick was converted. It's a bit tedious with pen and paper, but over time it forms a very interesting story, and it can be done with pen and paper. But those who've used pen and paper, they've said, hey, the app is even simpler. You can see me, you may attend to me our app. It's very easy to use. I think there was one question, but
I think you'll visit him behind the tent. We're constrained for time, but he's still going to deal with you. Then you record it so you can play it to everyone in public. So, I'm sure you guys were educated. So once again, thanks for seeing through this. We're coming to the tail end of this session. The next person I'm going to call on stage was a trialist for Reunion FC. There used to be a team called Reunion, for many of you here who don't know. There's probably 3 people in this room who know that there was a team called Reunion, including the trialist, it's 4. Anyway, from there, played his rugby at JKUAT Cougars, played for KCB, played for Kenya Harlequin, has been a Kenya international, made the move to writing about sport. He's now the Daily Nation. He's a man I respect a lot. Call him Sir Charles. Ladies and gentlemen, Charles Nyende for our final presentation of the day. And if you played for KCB, clap for him harder.
Yeah, that's okay. Good afternoon, guys. This guy has stolen my intro. I cleaned up all those things, trying to impress you guys right at the start. Yeah? But it's okay. If you'll allow me, because these guys have been in for quite a while. Yeah. Apart from 1 or 2 people, I don't really know much about it. Each person can just introduce themselves and which club
We'll start from the back of the room as you come forward. So I think you've had the request. Kindly introduce yourselves, your name and the club that you start from. Start from the back left. Shaban.
I got Kiru, Ali Prince, but I worked with other clubs in Kenya. Including two of black. Alex Guru, with the next year, we have Chile, based on
Oh, very impressive. Really, you guys, and I'm also impressed that most of you are young. It shows that you have the world of the guys to conquer, the new generation. As you said, my name is Charles Nyende. I don't think about my background. Just like the president, I did a bachelor in botany zoology. But followed a different path, I followed a different path. I think we have to very good in sales and marketing. Then as I became what we call self-representative and multiple company, I used to sell drugs. That was my first job that I was getting a salary, and it's because of rugby that I lost that job. I was playing for KCB. Then there was a district tournament. My boss was on me. Then I asked him, I want to be off for the weekend. I've been playing rugby in the past. They refused. Who am I? On Friday, I took my bag and I went to take the bus downtown. I went to Mombasa and I played a rugby that I came back. Now we go on Monday. Electricity. But I went there and did a course in journalism. That was a long distance online course with the London School of Journalism. Then I joined people. The nation called me. And then just to enhance my career, I went back to school and I did a master's in communication. And I've been in nation since. So when I say that, I'm saying, you guys, you're from different backgrounds, but one is of the, you never know where you from. The nation for almost 10 years now, I'm the sub-editor of the sports desk. When Kwambo told me that there was a presentation, and he actually gave me the topic, which was the clubs, how they can embrace use of media platforms available to sell information. And then it struck my head, how do I approach this thing? But it hit my head, just yesterday evening, after I started this presentation, I thought now I'll do Some of you might be trained journalists or run a course in communication. You're just a person who like communicating out there and also you're handling social media handles and communication department. But I think it's all about your content going out there and enhancing your product, which would be your club and the game. And the same case with us journalists, no, particularly in sport. So I'll just try to very briefly show the nexus between sports and media. That's in the brain, yeah. And if I don't know if that guy looks familiar. That is me at Qatar World Cup last year. It was the final between Argentina and France. Nobody can read that, but you say, choose a job you love and you never have to work a day in your life. It's something that you should love. You know, if it's rugby, like me, my background is rugby, and at the time when rugby was my life, and I used to live, eat, breathe, and talk about rugby. You know, it's something that till now, as much as I've gone so much, rugby has still been my first love. I tend to follow it in details. But because of sports, yeah, I was at the World Cup. You know, rubbing shoulders with all the other guys in the world. That was my first time to be in a study that had almost 90,000. 90,000. Can you imagine the atmosphere that they are in that study? 90,000 people. And it is one of the highest watched or attended FIFA matches. Maybe if I take a pause and I ask you guys, because you know the most watched FIFA World Cup match. The most watched, how many people attended? Just like general.
1994. Oh, in the stadium or
in the stadium.
For World Cup.
Do you know how much people attended? I think it was maybe about 90,000. But the highest attended was in the 1950 World Cup final between Brazil and Uruguay. At the maker of football, Maracana. You know how many people watch that match? But apart from maybe Formula One is like about 8 days, up to 1,000. But single sport in a study Marino, that was the highest watch. What about rugby? In the highest rugby match, World Cup match. Anybody, somebody? 2015 pool match between Ireland and Romania at also call it the home of rugby. Because it went inside. Someone 89,267. Or the highest watch rugby match. I don't know the highest attendance figure at Kenya Cup match. We have those figures. I know in the Safari 7 they talk about 20,000. I don't know the highest attendance figure of a rugby match in Kenya. I don't know, maybe. How many people attend? So understanding some of the questions being asked was so just the audience. You also You need to understand how what is sports reporting. What is sports reporting? You know, one thing I'll tell you, sport is one of the most followed journals. Then if you watch, if you look at the figures of people who attend matches, if you look at how many people now we talk about newspapers, but everything is online. How much sports content is consumed? A lot. So it's a very big area with a lot of potential. And it is easy to report about sports. I mean, we are playing track. Easily make something and it create around this 125 front post code for KCB, one code for the The next day, people are playing Queens. People are playing Queens, the game ended 10-3. People are scored Queens scored 2, so on so. Then the next day, Cabra were playing the Cabra scored. But I see how boring it is. So what makes sports story interesting? Sorry, those are ask yourself what makes your content interesting? So beyond just knowing the game and knowing the sport, you have to be very inspired and have that attention to detail. Somebody scoring his first hat, somebody scoring on his birthday, the person who the game winning tackle or the game winning try. Those kind of small details that make up a good sports story. Then the bread and butter of sport is the game. That's it. Again, that's why anything involves. So you're talking about the match preview, the match report, and the match rate, and a lot that is mixed up in all that. That's why now all these data that we're talking about that you can try to make the story interesting. You know, the key player, the effect of the game on the loose standings, you know, what the team did right, what the team did wrong. Then there are the stories on profile. Now you have about players, new player coming to the team, a player reaching a milestone, he scored his 100 try. Remember when Colin Tinjera became the World Cup all-time try scorer. For a long time, those are Kenyan. That's all statistics that now gladly World Rugby had. Imagine now if there's no cancer on that. That story would not have that was an impact that it had. And then now something that Kwamba talked about, the negative story. We sometimes have to be told. We're talking about corruption, doping, match fixing, discrimination in sports, you know, human trafficking, and even the criminal activities that can be covered in the Kenyan court. A player battered a fan, you know, a rape case. I mean, I don't need to get into the details of what happened. Unfortunately, Kenya 7 player, the issue that went around it. I think it's a story that needed to be told. Yeah. But at the end of the day, we want to capture any vivid and memorable moments in play and establish it in a good blend of. Of course, about would you know why you pick the job there? Because you love rugby, or you love your club. Yeah? You love rugby, you love your club. You have the facts, but you can also intermix them with the community. Sometimes I ask people in the ground, If today, 100 stars, yeah, you know the 100 stars. 100 stars were playing Brazil at Meow Stadium. And the 100 stars won. How that story is not just in the Kenyan. How that story one champion. There'll be a lot of opinion, yeah, and praise for how it plays. Imagine how that's going to be reported in Brazilian. Just think about how that story should be reported. It's the same game, the same result. Same game, same result being reported by two different sets of media. That is the opinion and commentary I talk about in sport. If KCB today lost to this, yeah, this, who the KCB what would be yeah, your money. What about this today? How to report? It's the same game. And the reason why you add that commentary and opinion is because you understand the game, that emotional level. Then the drama we talk about, drama in a sports story. And sports is all about drama. So how do you tell your story? What do you put in your handles? Yeah. And how do you capture that drama? We are talking about the last minute trial. Remember when we qualified for the Olympics in the last Olympics, the Rio Olympics. How much focus from Jane. No, I'm not going to get with that. That was dramatic. But I'm trying to imagine if we had more data showing that maybe this was on batching the 15th or 20th try, maybe 25th try for Kenya 7, or 18th try that took us to the Olympic Games. Much. And you actually say better players are people that give you it was significant. And now if you have that then you find yourself having a very good story. Now if you could know your players, there's so many things that you can say and people. You're playing on your back. Imagine you're turning 24 and you score 24 points. So you know, very a player who come back for a long-term injury, you know, he was away for 7 months, then came and scored 7 tries. How to tell that story? That is a very interesting small bit that you know you can put in the story, and everybody will be interested in reading about it. So it's about you having that imagination to use the data you have, or knowing the people that you are doing. Have you ever had
But then we had 3 brothers in the national team.
That's the news.
I-
Those 3 sets of brothers.
Sets of brothers.
So the seniors.
So in your team now, brother joining the team. That's good. Or maybe there's a sister or a father who's part of management. There's so many things that are there that can be included, yeah, that make the story interesting. You know, the important thing now is that when we pick up those things and we put them out there, other media houses pick them up, legacy media and all that. It increases the profile of your club. I was that's the next slide. Yeah. I'll just give you an example. This most federations, the nature of most federations, the big club, somebody have their formula. I don't know how many clubs they have official. When we report that market, I think KCB, Cabras, and should be having it. I will just that the club owners feel like what should be our media department. Don't mean that that is very important. Those are good sports stories. So I just took an example of FIFA World Cup. You know, FIFA, one of the most followed. The World Cup is one of the, in fact, is the biggest single sports event in the world, most watched apart from the Olympics. Well, I mean, overall for the many years, yeah. Like the finals of the FIFA World Cup in Qatar was watched by 1.5 billion. 1.5 billion human beings are watching the final. That means 1 in every 5 at the time the World Cup was taking place were watching the final. Tells you how big it is. And FIFA are very clever because what they've done, they have a very sophisticated media department, yeah. And they've put in a lot of resources in the department. They created a media hub where anybody who works for a media house or you're a journalist or you do PR work, to all the data that they have and statistics. The next big tournament is going to be the FIFA Beach Soccer World Cup. It's going to take place in UAE in February. Yeah? In February. Now there are 16 teams participating. Yeah? 16 teams are participating. If you still go to the site, you'll find all those teams there. And for each team you click on, let's go to the next slide. They have all the data on that team. Yeah. Now this is Argentina. The number of appearances is all there. How they qualified, yeah. Records in the tournament, and just scroll a bit down, and the individual records, you know. So it's information that even FIFA can also just put on their social handles, you know, bits and pieces of information. Yeah? And anybody else who looks at that can go ahead and write a story. Maybe by just looking at these statistics, I can do a story on Argentina, you know, like saying Argentina will be making their 11th appearance at the tournament, looking to go better than the quarterfinal performance that they've been going through. In the team will be one of their top scorers, Hilario Federico, who has so far scored 19 goals
in a career. And all the other data that is there. So it is something that you as a media person should know about, but now, if I ask somebody like, because of constraint of resources, like whether it's Falcon or Mwamba, could you know how many matches Mwamba has played in the Kenya Cup in history, for example? Do you have that information? Is that information available somewhere? But even my former club KCB, I know they played in a Kenya Cup for the first time they played in 90. They were created in 89. That's when they were formed. Yeah. That is one of the weaknesses we have now with our sports organizations, including the big ones like FKF. Yeah. I was National Olympic Committee of Kenya, KBF and all that. Yeah. But it's a challenge. It's something for you people to go back to your clubs and start compiling. This is the information that now you'll be giving it out there on your Twitter handles or your social handles, or sharing it with the mainstream media. We'll even appreciate when we get some of this information, so that for every circle, whenever there's a game coming up, you're giving this information, or rather you are putting it out there. And when it's picked up and the interest in your club also grows. This moment and time, yeah. Which player in Kenya Cup now has played the most number of matches? Would we know? And amongst your clubs, for example, whether you play in Kenya Cup or in the championship, would you know the player who has played the most matches in Kenya Cup, for example? But it's information that you can dig around and just provide for yourself. I remember when just before I joined, because at the time I was working for people. Before I joined people, when I was playing for KCB, that time social media was nowhere. I used to play and report on the match. What I will do after the match, I will write a report, type a report on Word document, up the page, and then put it at the clubhouse on the notice board. Yesterday, KCB played so and so, and just out of my own effort, then I started building those records. So that I will say, hey, this season, Churchill Kaba, he has scored 5 tries, the leading try scorer. Those are just my records. So for you, it will be difficult, perhaps, maybe to build your own statistics over the years. But let's say for this season, yeah, just pen and paper, as Angela says, and for every match you're keeping your statistics, and you'll find every day you'll have content. You won't post today and wait for 5 days, post again. And one thing about sports audience, thing I've realized, they are very, very knowledgeable, and they'll point you out very quickly if you've made a mistake. Right, and say that Injera retired in 2022. Someone will come out and say, no, that guy retired in 2021, and they tell you even the exact day he retired. Yeah. Because the sports fan is a very knowledgeable fan, and the sports fan, they love their statistics. Who scored when, who scored how much, and all that. People as the ones handling the media accounts of the organizations, it's something that you should also have on your fingertips. There's something that I really wanted to emphasize, that you also understand that sports is the world's best advertising agency. Why do I say that? Most times when we do the sports stories, the sports stories that are widely read, together when people are sitting and discussing whether it's the English Premier League, which seems to be very popular with Kenyans in the league, or to a chapa, whether you're Arsenal or Manu and all that, or now like we're discussing Rugby World Cup. I'm sure how many are All Blacks fans? Eh? We're the minority. South Africa, box, winning. England, that's hard, I would have thought. But why is giving out that relevant to what you have, Media one is also in social media, and it amplifies things that are put in social media and vice versa, So if you get a good working relationship with the media house or several media houses, then your story is amplified and more clicks, as you say, and there's more following for your club. I should not release this, but for example, at Nation now, Nation.Africa is basically the newspaper. Per day we get about 400,000 to 500,000 engagements. That is now people who click onto the website to read a story and all that, So if you've put your story out there on your platform and it's picked by Nation.Africa and they also run that story, more people have read it. So if it was about a match that you're going to have, you suddenly realize that more people are talking about it and you're doing a good job about it. There was one other handle I wanted you to show. There's this interesting development, I think last week when this story broke, and I think it was actually broken by the player himself, Sikuta. I just put on his Twitter account that when good things end somewhere, I think others start, So it was just later that we got to learn that he's going to, I don't know which club it is, Where is he playing by the way? North Africa somewhere. Is going to play there, Yeah, Canada. Then 3 or 4 days later is when Cabra Sugar, now are thanking him for all that. And why wouldn't Cabras not have broken the story with him? Unless maybe kuna vitu za ndani hatujui what was going on. And just go up. Sorry. Yeah. And no, Cabras also gave some stats, but very, very briefly, I can see it. So it was not done well. The number of Kenya Cup matches he has played and he has won. And Enterprise Cups he has won, and National Seventh Circuit he has won. You know, but I think this guy is a legend of Kabras Sugar. And there's a lot of information that could have been given on him. And when you give more of that information, it's also picked up by other media outlets, and they do a much bigger story and get a bigger impact on it. Yeah. So, that's there, was here. What is the official humans? These are not official. Yeah. So for me, I just conclude by saying, you know, clubs should ideally have a communication department that has very competent people who can drive this symbiotic relationship between media and sports organization. I've also done a brief on exactly what you guys need to be good at. So, Kwambo expertly handling. Although it's all about effective media communication technique. How we communicate now. Building good relationship with journalists. Because we're in the same space, we're in the same page. We're not at the same. We're in the same page, we have to set sports, have good relationship. So having those contacts, being able to anticipate what journalists want, whether it's squad selection, training, when it's training, it's open to media. How can we approach? How can we get a player for an interview when it's an open session? Those kind of things we try and anticipate. Crisis management is very important. You really want to manage the news. So it's amazing. Get stuff. Something that you learn along the way. I always say the most important thing is this thing that eventually found out. So it's about how much do you want to share. Interview skills, you're also putting in your own content. You can give it out, but also do your own content with interviews. That is something that you should learn. You also watch story and put on comments. Social media strategies is another big topic that I don't get into, but it's something that you need to know. But of course, consistency, the compelling content, to maximize positive coverage. It's important. People never take this for granted. If I have a following of 100,000 or 1 million, who should tell me anything? I did whatever I want. But the book also know about the code of conduct. Journalists. What do you share? What do you share? There are things that it's ethical behavior. Very obvious being don't forget that there's nothing. There's nothing to teach you. Yes.
call it? What you? Jim. First one. Start with. That was house. Imagine now that time because at this age that is social media. A little bit of teacher that. The first one more that specifically wrong. So we will say that they can farm their mouth and let them sharing very bad image. Those are things that well. Yeah, those people will argue that information should not be censored. Just appraise yourself to the corner. Sensitivity. Is that something you want to do? Done to you. I remember these are personal experience, not with rugby. I lost my young brother. What is going on accident? Discussing may know that happening to what was the issue. But if you are promoting the club, being a good story, the good of the game. But that's what good by saying. Good sports stories that I mean, if today what people came here and they tested the Queensland playing, all of them tested positive for a drug. That's a very big story. That's a huge story. Very huge big story. But is it a good sports story? It's not. It's not. It's not. People love. Nobody loves the good story. It's really too much. That's talking about it. We think that and so much one. We think when Kenya qualifying for the Olympics, maybe win the Olympics 7 gold. Media, sports, that is all about selling the story and selling the good. Say everybody, the partners, the audience, friends. That's why I conclude small presentation. Let me very question. I'll
There is a
conclude here.
question from Isabel.
Now looking at it on how you see that scenario. There's two aspects to it. Obviously, for the team, expresses on the team. And now for this the story. We not support it. One is the scenario was a team has given one has taken from players of management.
I think because that's not clear, has to be told. The match tell the top guy, you know, as the facts are. And beyond that, of course, you start now as a person maybe who belongs to that club, you now start getting the players, maybe use people, everyone for foreign want to do that. you're the first person. I don't want to make go into all those stuff. But I was saying, fantastic. What a good school. I think we told them that so much. I think that's a good story. A milestone when the team, how well they performed here. Coach coming with new qualification and the other new training techniques that have helped new talents. What Cabras are doing and down there is making them so dominant. Yeah. No, this can be good story. One right now is challenging. Now you don't have a home. Wait, the story that you give it land somewhere, set up the flat, does not happen. But the national code is here. Still stable. Any other question, comments?
I think we're done. Before I invite Biggie, let's make 3 curveballs or 2. Give a vote of thanks. But before the vote of thanks, I do hope that you've all been enlightened here today, and that you take whatever lessons from this session and start translating them right from our clubs. Let's celebrate the game. Let's celebrate the players collectively. That's how we grow. And one more thing on a lighter note, I want to throw down a challenge to club social media handlers. You guys give us match day lineups, give us match day results as well. In the same postings. Please, you guys on Friday morning, the timeline is full. Pop. Saturday evening, there's nothing. So it's a challenge to you guys. No try, we're doing it. So Biggie, vote of thanks.
First of all, this session will slow over something that we have been talking about for a very long time. And to see that things that we speak about in other quarters come. So thank you very much to you for organizing. Thank you to our
thank you to everybody who has come here to present. There is a lot of things that we came thinking that we know, but you have left knowing that we didn't know. And it is a good thing. The only disappointment is that Kenya Cup teams, we are less. So I see championship teams, we have taken the media challenge and they are beating us Kenya Cup teams. So it is up to us, the Kenya Cup teams, to try and push our colleagues. I know for a fact, every Kenya Cup team has a media handler. It is just about how often they put out content. That is a problem. So we push ourselves. Championship teams, there is still a lot of content down there. There are still people who want to know what goes on in that league. So don't give up. Nationwide, same thing. Most of the times we give the spotlight to Kenya Cup, we forget championship and we forget nationwide. So you guys are the ones to tell us the stories. If you don't tell us the stories, then your team will be forgotten. So keep on telling us your stories. And I think that's it. Just appreciate the art of storytelling. We are storytellers in whatever little way that we tell the stories, whether we write, whether we take photos, whether we take videos, we are all storytellers. And this our rugby story will not be as big as it is on the world stage if we do not take it seriously here. So thank you very much to everyone. Thank you for coming.
Okay, we can only afford tea, but at least
I don't know what that means.
Oh boy. Technology, guys, technology. Anyway, I'm saying there's a cup of tea at the boardroom. Biggie, again, you know where the boardroom is. So I task you with leading everybody there. So once again, thank you for coming. We definitely will have more sessions on more topics related to this, but this is a start. Let's clap for ourselves.